Long ago, in a land of rolling green hills and winding cobblestone lanes, there lived a shoemaker whose hands could work wonders, but whose heart was growing heavy. It was a village where every cottage told a story of laughter, of struggle, and of dreams that refused to fade. And at the edge of that village, where hope was the hardest to find, lived the kindest shoemaker of all. A man who had almost nothing left to give, except his good heart. He was a fine craftsman, but times were hard. So hard that tonight he had only one single piece of leather left. His wife, Elara, watched him from the hearth, her heart heavy with worry. The shoemaker cut the leather with a heavy heart, preparing it for one last pair of shoes. He carefully laid out the cut pieces, ready to stitch come morning. Too weary to eat, they left the leather on the bench, said their prayers and went to bed. As the village clock struck midnight, two tiny figures crept through a crack in the wall. They were elves, and they had come to help. With nimble fingers and joyful hearts, they uncovered the leather and set to work. They stitched and hammered, tapped and sewed, their tiny tools moving in a blur. The first rays of dawn crept through the window, chasing the shadows away. The shoemaker came down the stairs, expecting nothing more than another day of disappointment. But as he went to uncover his work, he stopped, frozen in disbelief. There, on the bench, were the most beautiful shoes he had ever seen.
Elara! Elara, come quickly!
He called for his wife, his voice trembling with joy. Elara rushed down, fearing something was wrong.
What is it, Alaric? What's happened?
When she saw the shoes, she clasped her hands together, a gasp escaping her lips. Who could have made them? They were stitched with a skill beyond any human hand.
Open up!
A wealthy merchant passing by saw the shoes in the window. He paid handsomely, more than enough for leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That evening, the shoemaker cut enough leather for 2 pairs, and then 2 more. That night, Elara had an idea. We must stay awake, she whispered. We must thank our mysterious helpers. As the clock struck 12, the crack in the wall glowed with a soft, magical light. Pip and Sprocket appeared, chattering silently as they scurried towards the bench. With incredible speed and joy, they began their work, their tiny hands a blur. They worked through the night, their laughter like tiny silver bells. Before dawn, the work was done. 4 perfect pairs of shoes sat on the bench. As they vanished, the shoemaker and his wife emerged from their hiding place, their hearts full. They were naked, Elara, the shoemaker said, his voice thick with emotion. Cold and naked. Elara nodded, a plan forming in her kind heart. Then we shall make them clothes, she said. Tonight, we shall make them a gift. That day, the shoemaker sold the 4 pairs of shoes for a fortune. But instead of buying more leather, Elara bought fine silk, soft wool and tiny buttons. That evening, they didn't hide. Instead, they laid out their own gift on the workbench. Then, they hid once more, waiting with bated breath to see their secret friends. Pip and Sprocket squeezed through the crack, ready to work, but stopped dead in their tracks. They saw the tiny clothes and their eyes filled with tears of joy. They dressed themselves in their new finery, dancing with pure, unbridled joy. Then, for the first time, they looked towards the hiding spot and waved. They sang a song, their voices like wind chimes, before disappearing forever. The shoemaker and his wife emerged, knowing they had been blessed by magic and by the power of kindness. From that day on, Alaric's shop flourished, known far and wide for its exquisite craftsmanship. But they never forgot the little ones who had saved them. They set out a small stool by the hearth each night, with a bowl of cream and a few tiny cookies. Though they never saw the elves again, sometimes they'd find a tiny stitch mended on a boot. Children would come from all over, hoping for a glimpse of the legendary elves. And the shoemaker would tell them the story, his eyes twinkling. For the magic wasn't just in the shoes they made. but in the kindness they gave and received. Their home was no longer crooked, but filled with love, warmth, and the memory of magic. And in the quiet of the night, if you listened very closely, you could almost hear the faint, joyful sound of tiny hammers and the laughter of Pip and Sprocket, forever at work.